Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our session. Welcome to the session on re-engineering startups during crisis. I mean, we've been experiencing this COVID situation for the last 3-4 months, and by now we've also got a lot of education on healthcare aspects, and then about COVID, and now as a business, we need to again come back to normalcy or the new normal. So we would like to understand from the startups that have come through this phase. How did you handle the crisis, and then in general as an entrepreneur, you know you encounter many crises in your journey, and of course it may not be of this enormity, but yes, as a startup specific to your startup, it might be big at times. So there would be situations when you had to decide to pivot or pull the plug. So you come across many crises. So we want to share uh, the journey of the speakers here with new gen entrepreneurs, and there will be a lot of learnings. So in fact, we have good mix of speakers here, because we have serial entrepreneurs, and then we have people who worked in the industry for quite some time and then chose an entrepreneurial journey. So we would have come, we can explore a lot of aspects which would help in that resilience of the entrepreneurs, and wading through the crisis. So, before we directly go into the topic, maybe, I'll ask the speakers to quickly, take us through their journey, their entrepreneurial journey till date. So, maybe Saurabh, will start with you. So, how was your entrepreneurial journey?
So, good morning, everyone. So, basically, I was a startup entrepreneur for 15 plus years before joining Paytm, and I was into mobile gaming and mobile value-added services. And in general, I would say that startups are great fun. You get to learn a lot. And in fact, my own theory is that instead of colleges, people should be made to start startups because once you start startups, you start learning faster than what you learn in colleges. So broadly speaking, startups were a lot of fun. And then when Vijay asked me to join Paytm, so I joined Paytm, and Paytm is also a startup. An interesting question which I was asked by a lady who was in the first 100 employees of Paytm. So she said, कि हम आज भी startup हैं या is it only that media refers to us as startup, because obviously we are a big company now. So I said startups are not about size. Startups are about building things under uncertainty, as per the definition of Eric Ries. So things are still uncertain, even if you are at a bigger level, because at the end of the day, startups are always about innovation, technology, new things, and these are always changing. And I think Corona has added a new dimension to that uncertainty. And I think startups would be able to thrive because thriving in uncertainty is in the DNA of startups, which is not in general businesses. So I believe this year would be good for startups in the long run. Maybe in the short term there is a lot of pain.
Sir, and Srinath, will come to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Srinath Ramakrishnan. I am from Zetwork. Zetwork is a contract manufacturing platform. We provide manufacturing subcontracting services to companies in the capital goods space, which is oil and gas, thermal power, renewable energy, aerospace, defense, etc., and also the consumer goods space. So brands which are basically making consumer products, we are the back end, right? So we are not the we do not have our own products. We don't have design capabilities, but what we focus on is the back end of the whole manufacturing supply chain. Personal background: I'm from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Did my engineering from Chennai and worked in ITC in Andhra, in Guntur, Vijayawada, Rajahmundry, Ongole, all these towns for about 5 years. 2015 jumped into the startup ship Built two companies before this, Off Business, which is today a large B2B NBFC, non-banking financial services company, and Blackbuck, which is a trucking platform where I was handling supply and operations. And I think 2017 December is when me, Amrit, Vishal, Rahul came together to start Zetwork. So Zetwork is a B2B company. Obviously, a lot of technology goes inside integrating the backend of the currently broken manufacturing supply chain, and that's what we're trying to stitch and build as a company.
So Rajesh, so about your journey.
Sure. Very good morning, everyone, and pleasure to be on this panel today. I'm Rajneesh. I'm the founder of Anter IoT. At Anter, we help customers in enjoying the smart home experience at an affordable budget. That is one of our offerings. And we also help the industries in reducing the wastage, improving the efficiency as a part of the IoT offering. And we also help them move from a preventive maintenance to just-in-time maintenance, thereby saving a lot of cost that will go towards the maintenance of the machinery. Prior to starting Anter, I worked in CSC, Motorola, and HP. In CSC, I was an entrepreneur where I built the Center of Excellences for IoT and mobile. I played the role of a global head for emerging testing technologies. That was a background. Anter, we started in 2017. We are like 2 years old now. We've got 2 patents, around 17 employees, and primarily based out of Visakhapatnam. We manufacture products here, and we have our own IoT platform, which is in a beta stage. It's more like a replacement for any large platform. If there is an OEM who wants to really go live fast, a regular device, if they want to make it smart, they can leverage a platform and go live very quickly, wherein we'll take care of the entire backend, the connectivity, and security and maintenance. So that's in short, and we are angel funded, so we do not have a huge runway. Most of the business is dependent on the monthly sales that we generate. The business, and hence, in our case, business continuity is extremely critical. Unlike any other, I'm sure in the startup, if you look at the segmentation, we are one segment where probably we did not really go for a series funding, but we are already in the revenue generation phase and the scaling mode where business continuity is critical. We do have a lot of challenges which we have overcome, and I'm sure this adversity is also an opportunity for many startups. We can talk more as the session.
Sure.
This session.
And Ram, about your journey.
Hi, good morning, all. My name is Ram Kumar Verma. I come with 21 plus years of experience, 15 plus into IT and IT's background. I work with multiple MNCs like IBM, 24/7, Microland, and all of that. My entrepreneur journey started in 2013. I actually run 4 organizations from Visakhapatnam. The first organization which I established was called Corporate Learning. We do skill development training programs. And, it was a great journey. We still continue doing the same, but that's being the first, entrepreneur journey into skill development. A lot of hardships which we have gone through, a lot of learnings. Looking at that opportunity, we decided, instead of sticking to one organization, we certainly have to grab new opportunities to take it up. 2016 is when we started another organization or a startup called the Corporate World. This is primarily into branding and strategy. We do a lot of corporate videos, website designing, and all of that, broader branding and strategy stuff. In the same year, I come from a family background where we come with 80 plus years of doctors' family again. So, and primarily serving the rural population. So, we've been thinking for the last 5-6 years as a family to see how can we add value to rural population. So, that is when the existing organization Medic DFHCS actually dropped in 2016. Prime idea here is we wanted to connect rural citizens to get healthcare services at their doorstep. So, I'm coming from a technology background, and I have about, my family comes from a doctor's family background. We've developed a product. It's been 3 plus years right now. Great connect. We have great learnings. Of course, cracking rural citizens is extremely tough. We had hardships, but thank God, everybody had an issue in terms of lockdown. Trust me, that actually gave us a lot of opportunity to go back and track in reaching out to a lot of rural citizen population. Along with it, in 2017, I have started another organization to add value to tribal farmer ecosystem. The name of the company is Native Araku Coffee. I'm sure everybody heard about Araku Coffee. So that happened with a small story, and it touched my heart. And I said I should start doing something for a rural farmer again, a tribal farmer. 3 years of journey. That's into a retail segment. We only do e-commerce where we ship Araku coffee across India. We just have to order it online and ship it to the doorstep. I think great learnings as an entrepreneur, and as mentioned, all I have learned out of my 6 years of entrepreneur journey is grab the opportunity which you get, right? And funding will come, money will come. But if you start depending on exclusively saying that, okay, if I start a company, where will I get money from? It's not an idea. It says how strong is your prototype, how strong is your product, what is the need of the hour, and how can we really go back and sell it. I think that's a small journey. I'll certainly share my experiences in the session further.
Sure. Great. Thanks for sharing your journeys. And we do have an really elaborate sectors and industries that we are covering amongst the four of you. We'll now directly go into the topic. The current crisis that we are seeing is completely unprecedented, and I don't think so. There is anyone alive who has seen the previous one of similar enormity when the Spanish flu has come and who is still active in the economy. So, want to know, how did you handle? Your companies handle it in terms of the business. Yes, it's affected across the globe, but how did you majorly handle the stakeholders? I mean, your employees, your clients, because everyone is affected. But during this time is when you need to show your camaraderie and staying together. So, how did you handle this situation? So, we'll start again in the same order. Saurabh. So, how was it at Paytm?
So in Paytm, we had the second case in Delhi of a Paytm employee who came from Italy. So our offices had closed, in fact, 20 days before the lockdown. So our offices had closed on, I think, if I remember correctly, 4th or 5th March. And initially, obviously, it's good that Holi was coming, and we thought that it is just for 1 week, and after sanitization, the offices will open. But unfortunately, as people came to know more and more about the crisis, so the offices unfortunately never resumed, and practically most of the offices are still today closed. Although we had opened a few offices across India and even in Noida, but no, like most of the offices are still closed. And yesterday only our founder Vijay Shekhar Sharma, he tweeted that like he was talking to some of the senior people, and most of them said that they don't expect in 2020 people going to office, because every day we are like listening to new things like that this disease is airborne. So in a open plan office with a centralized air conditioned, I don't think people would be able to resume. So that I think is a big issue. But fortunately, we all were able to work because most of the people in the company had laptops. So the company had the policy of giving laptop to every employee instead of a desktop. So that actually I think helps a lot, because most employees were just bringing laptops every day to office. So now obviously they can work from home easily. The other thing is that we had account where we could easily do online things. And specifically in Paytm Built for India, what I realized was that we can basically do Zoom and all for webinars. So in my own work, initially in March, I thought that I do a lot of startup events, mentoring, etc. How will that happen? But I was positively surprised that the ecosystem started lots of webinars and all these online things. And now, like in fact, I would say my personal productivity is more than what it was before the pandemic, because I was going to events, but say for example, if I had to come to Vizag, so I would have had to at least spend 2 days for this event. because I would have come last night. I would have gone back today. So today I'm doing two events online, and still I am with my family. So I feel it's a new kind of a challenge. Many people are liking the work from home culture. Some people obviously are not liking the work from home culture, but many people are liking, because especially people who are from outside Delhi NCR area, and they had just migrated for a job. They are
Yeah.
liking the work from home thing. I believe it's a challenge for startups in general, because smaller startups especially would be getting less work, and payments has become an issue. But I believe that this is a great time. I say this is a great time for Saraswati than Lakshmi. So maybe from a Lakshmi point of view, it's causing an issue because of payments and lack of orders, etc. But from a Saraswati point of view, it's a very good time. For example, I am personally reading a lot of books these days, because you can learn a lot of things, and you can learn a lot of things, and you can try to understand all the things. And for R&D also, I think online, because most of the IT related stuff is done online only. So R&D is not that much impacted for all this kind of work. So I believe it's a good thing for startups for long run. For short run, obviously, for 6 months there is immediate pain.
So I guess you handle the CSR activities majorly, and CSR is one thing which might feel the highest, hit because now that business don't have those extra money which you can actually spend for CSR. So how is it affecting your activities?
So
And then
for
some
Paytm,
of the NGOs dependent on you.
So for
How is it
Paytm,
affecting?
it has not affected that much, because we have distributed sanitizers and masks, etc., at lot of places. Especially, actually, the 2% rule was not applicable on us, because we were not very profitable.
Yes.
So this is applicable only on profitable companies. So as
Yes.
a startup, I would say it has not impacted that much. In fact, Vijay always has this aim of helping others. So
Mm.
and our CSR was not that big as such. Like you hear about the corporates who have 10,000 crores of profit every year, they have to spend 200 crores of CSR every year. But in our case, it was more of a CSR by heart, not by law. So it
Okay.
has not been impacted that much.
Great. So again, now we'll go to Srinath. So how did you handle? Because you are an engineering services company, so you cannot completely move to a virtual mode.
Yeah,
So how did you
absolutely.
handle it?
Absolutely, Anudeep. I think I would divide the last 4 months into roughly four phases. Right? One was March. Obviously, I think 21st lockdown was announced. A week before only we shut our offices, sensing something drastic is going to happen, and that 1 week advancement in shutting down ops gave us time in actually program managing, taking care of our employees. Right? I mean, our offices are in Bangalore, and of course, a lot of remote locations where manufacturing really happens. Most of the talent, most of our employees are from another place, right? So that 1 week gave us a good opportunity for telling our employees to go back to their hometowns, settle at their homes, because I don't know if something longer, if a lockdown of a longer, I mean, it was already happening in other countries, right? So that's what we did. First thing we did was basically taking care of employees. We sent all of them, whoever was from an outside location, sent them safely back home. We announced work from home from 14th of March. Second thing, I think on 27th, 2nd or 23rd of March, we took insurance, the COVID insurance package. We topped it up with that. So that was another step. So that was a phase of roughly it's all about taking tactical decisions to protect our employees. We are about 300 employees. About 170 are in Bangalore, and remaining are across 10 different locations. And so that was phase one. Phase two was about, okay, now that employees are taken care of and are safe in their respective locations, Now let's come to the company. So what is going to happen to the company for the next 3-4 months? And then the whole business continuity planning activity started. So we did this as early as April. So we basically created different business continuity plans. We different scenarios: 3-month lockdown, 6-month lockdown. What is going to be the bounce back of the economy? I mean, we spoke to a lot of customers, lot of suppliers. Our suppliers are primarily MSMEs, right? These are either site contractors or workshops, manufacturing, fabrication, machining, casting, forging kind of workshops, right? So did a lot of stakeholder engagement. Those 1 week, 10 days to kind of, but nobody can really model a pandemic, right? On of our performance for a pandemic, but yeah, so that 10-15 days basically in the month of April gave us a sense of what is going to be the impact on the company for this year, and primarily single focus, right? I mean, not really analyzing too many things. What is going to be the cash flow for the company looking like? So cash flow is very important. So that's what we did, and we realized that, see, in a startup, it's both of them, right? So you have to obviously take care of your employees, but your company is also like a baby, right? So you'll have to also take care of the company. So how do you balance between that? Then we said, obviously, we did not want to let go of anyone because of the impact, because we are building this for the long term, right? So we took pay cuts as a decision. We and our employees were all supportive of it, and we did that in the month of April. That gave us a little bit of cushion because we were practically seeing zero revenue months, right? And nothing was essential about what we were doing as per the government's definition, right? We are not into groceries or agriculture, right? So that was the second phase. The third phase was, okay, now that things are sorted, okay, we have taken care of finances, cash flows. So what do we do now in this crisis hours, right? So how do we convert the crisis into opportunity, kind of a thought process? So fundamentally, two things were born there. One, I mean, like Saurabh was saying, it's a time of Saraswati. So we also did that. L&D, the learning and development agenda, was always taking a backseat in the company because people was always busy during the hay months of the company. Next 2 months, we did a lot of training programs for the company for different departments. Second thing that we did was, glad to announce, our healthcare vertical was actually born during this crisis. Right? So we never really had a manufacturing footprint in the healthcare vertical, and a team of, I mean, all of this, it was not like really planned or with great foresight. A bunch of our own people came and said, "Sir, let's do something in the healthcare space. A lot of activities happening. A lot of small manufacturers are fundamentally having bottlenecks in terms of capacity. Let's leverage that and do something." That was, so these are two things that happened in the month of May and June. And the moment unlocking happened in June, that was phase 4. Then it's time to reboot, right? It's time to also unlock our operations, unlock at least our field teams. Okay, now people are going to get back to work. How do you provide them safety? And how do you also advise our suppliers and customers to replan their operations? All of this work happened in June, July. So roughly 4 phases, Anadi. The tactical employee management that happened in March. April was all about contingency planning and all the scenarios planning. May and June, in the peak of crisis, is when we really try to address some opportunity. And finally, when in June, July, when unlocking happened in the new normal, how do you conduct operations, right? So all that we think happened in the month of June and July.
So how did you help your suppliers or your clients? Is there any way you could support them too?
Absolutely. So I think the migrant worker crisis that happened in the month of May and June was significant. A lot of people were. I mean, it's also about even MSME suppliers are, if when there is no cash flow to the suppliers, how do you support the workers, right? And there were a lot. I mean, we saw a lot of people primarily taking good care of the workers of their factory in terms of fooding and accommodation, at least, right? And a lot of support. So that's when we partnered with Give India. We we started a program for supporting manufacturing migrant workers across at least our operational locations. That went primarily towards supporting the ration supplies and accommodation needs of all the stranded migrant workers in our operating locations. That was one significant work that happened on the supplier side. On the customer side, primarily our customers are OEMs or EPCs. These are design and build companies. For them, the issue really was dispatches. A lot of products were stranded, so it's like the chain has got completely disrupted, right? So we were primarily helping them three things in terms of business continuity, in terms of moving, and also if you remember in the month of May and June, when unlocking did not happen uniformly across the country, right? So how do we tactically move supply sources from location A to location B so that some business continuity can happen even for our customers? So that was the work that we did for the customer.
Okay. So, I mean, we covered most of the stakeholders, but you left the investors here. So, you announced Series C last week. I guess you must have been in discussion with them during the lockdown, and the due diligence must have happened. So, was there some change? Because until you get that money into your account, you did not yet get the funding. So, the investors still had a chance if they want to back out or if they had second thought. So, how was it? How did is there any situation like that?
Yeah, fortunately, that did not happen with us. I think so. We have five investors: A Capital, Sequoia, Axel Partners, Lightspeed, and Greeno. All of them were investors early in the company, and all of them were committed for the long term, and so all of them were seeing the crisis as a larger humanitarian crisis, and it's a point in time of the company's journey, long term journey. So I think the conviction about what we were building did not really change during these months. We were lucky to be in partners with these investors who also shared a similar vision for the company that we shared. And in terms of the closure of the round, it happened pretty much at the start of the pandemic. It really did not change the way they were looking or evaluating about a company, right? So that's what I can say. And I mean, probably things do not happen that way, but we were in a position of advantage that way. And
Great. So now we'll go to Rajnish. So, how was your experience in handling the pandemic and in general about your operations and then your employees?
Sure. Like I was mentioning you, we are angel funded and primarily dependent on the monthly revenues to run the business, and hence business continuity is extremely critical for us. So if you look at the overall thing for any company, the fundamental aspect is employees, right? They have to be happy. And during this pandemic, after seeing what's happening in China, the first thing is employees are not happy. They're uncertain in terms of whether the jobs are going to be safe, whether how their future will be, if the company is going to take care of them, and things like that. So this is the fundamental thing that we first addressed. Across it's a collective decision that we took. We are a smaller team. While we really intend to become a process-oriented company where we have backups and everything, at this point we are a people-oriented company where people dependency is there in the sections that we operate. So what we collectively decided to restructure the salary as a first step. We introduced a 40% variable pay across the company for all employees. So this way, what happened is the accountability and has increased, and even if the company is succeeding, the variable pay can go up to 200%. So that way, they are also getting benefit. So that way, we made everyone accountable in the process. And two, we have provided them the laptops so that the business continuity can be there. And from a company standpoint, we operate in both sides, right? The non-IT as well as the IT. For IT, there is no problem at all because we have provided them the laptops. We know what's happening in China. In fact, before early March itself, we have provided laptops to everyone, enabled work from home. And in fact, the IT side, the productivity has increased. But non-IT is where we had an impact because just like Srinath was mentioning, there was a problem with the logistics. Things got stranded. we're not receiving the raw materials. So this is one challenge. Still, we have the challenge we have addressed to some extent. Luckily, we had stocks in place so that we are able to meet the customer demand. And last is we provide insurance to the employees who are on the field. So that way we made sure that the employees are happy. That's the first thing that we have addressed. So now that the employees are happy, the next step is how do we ensure the business continuity, regardless of these situations, right? So the first thing that we did is we looked at ways of increasing the top line. So currently, we have clear customer personas defined wherein, okay, a first-time home buyer or someone who is renovating his home, we have clearly defined customer personas whom we were targeting as a part of our marketing. But now with this pandemic, what happened is customers are not really comfortable in allowing people from outside to come into their home, right? So we had to redefine the customer persona whom we are targeting, the customer segmentation. We targeted the projects which are under construction, which will be soon nearing the housewarming. And that way, rather than focusing on all areas, we have kept very specific focus on this area. That's one. And two, we also tapped on to the current scenario where there is an anti-China sentiment that's going on. So, so if you look at the Japanese companies, they're moving out of China. The government has announced a fund for the companies who are coming back to Japan. So, while it is not a core business for us, we try to engage with the customers in Japan by providing them the IT services. It's more of a land and expand model wherein we're getting the initial entry. We targeted the manufacturing companies who might need some IT services. We landed there. And now the strategy is to expand into the areas by providing them with the machine analytics, moving them from the preventive to the just-in-time maintenance. So that is another strategy that we've implemented, and we are successful in locking down on a customer, and we all got currently the project also is in progress. That's one. And apart from that, diversification, like Srinath was telling, in fact, we also diversified into IIoT, and we got our first PO of around 40 lakhs last week. So that was a big breakthrough because this is not something that we have anticipated before the COVID scenario. But after the COVID scenario, it actually forced us to look into it because we looked at what are the areas where we are fundamentally strong, how we can build new business models, leveraging the existing infrastructure and models that we have already built. And then these models, we took it to industries and helped them understand how they can save energy using these models. And fortunately, things worked out. And another thing is Vizag being an industrial corridor. So there are a lot of industries who might need these services. And with the lockdown, people are not able to move from Ahmedabad or Mumbai and provide services to the local industries. So that also gave us an edge where we are providing the services locally. Apart from that, another area where I think that's really helped us is, generally we never used to look at the Startup India initiatives. There were a lot of events, there are a lot of challenges, grants and things like that, which we often ignored. But now with this, we had to tap on every opportunity that's available. For the very first time, we applied for a challenge there and we won the challenge. And that opened up opportunities for us with a $50 billion company, allowing us to showcase our pilot in 40 countries. So that's a huge, in fact, for a company, it could be a very big opportunity, which is otherwise not possible. So that is another thing that we have explored and we succeeded during the pandemic situation. And the other thing is non-technical. So far I was telling you about IT, where the productivity has increased because of work from home, the time they saved because of the commute and things like that. Coming to the non-IT, these are all technicians who would be primarily assembling the devices, doing the soldering, manufacturing things. But now with the given scenario, we're not able to do this very aggressively. So we have used this time to work on the gaps like what are the do's and don'ts, what are the best practices, updating our manuals, right? Working on the V2 of the products where working on the V2 doesn't really require hardware. You have a lot of simulation tools where you can simulate the hardware. We already know what are the issues that are coming in production, and then we fix them. So that's how we're making sure that everyone is busy. We have sources of business. We diversified. We are looking at new areas of business, looking at every opportunity that we can tap on, and making sure that we're ensuring the business continuity.
So Ram, now we'll go to you. So, and being in the healthcare space, you have a completely different ballgame to
Yeah.
look at. So, how was the experience?
So Nadeep, I echo to all the other speakers what they've looked into. Our first priority, the moment we observed on March 18th that COVID is coming out, and we really have to take care of employees first, being in healthcare. First thing we did is we actually reached out to all the family members. It's just not the employees and their family members. We started educating them, saying that this is do you don't have to panic about it. These are precautions which you'll have to take care. These are precautionary, your hygiene which you'll have to take care. Ensure the social distancing is there. What we've ensured here is we ensured that your employee, your kid or your son, your daughter is safe. But first thing is you ensure that you are safe before your son or daughter is working. And every week I personally used to call their parents to see how is everybody. It's generally a Saturday call for the first 45 days. What that gave us is a trust between the employee and the organization. And after that, I have a very small team in all the verticals. So we have project heads for every team member. So our idea here is every day morning about 11 o'clock, first they call up the team members to check how's their health, is everything going right? And a couple of people say, sir, I'm falling sick, I have cold, cough happening and all of that. Being in healthcare, we used to connect them to the right doctor, get the medication online, and then start getting them back to action. That gave us a lot of trust in the organization for the employees. That's the first step which we have taken. And after that, for the last 6 months, from January, we started working on a telemedicine software, a platform especially, which was about 90% done by March. So once this COVID has come in, all the directors, project leads, we all got in the call for about 4 or 5 days to see where is the opportunity that we have to build in for the next future. Then we decided telemedicine is going to be the next step. So we have about 850 to 900 doctors, diagnostic centers, and medical shops. We reached out to a couple of them saying that, hey boss, we are building a platform right now. Being into, then you have your own hospitals and all of that in rural area. How about implementing a telemedicine concept in your own space? So we've got about 6-7 inquiries and we zeroed on one. So primarily into homeopathy because what we've looked at also today, if I implement telemedicine also in a allopathy or Ayurvedic space, it's a little expensive. Not everybody will be in a position to afford this. Then we looked at homeopathy and then we've identified an organization called Homeopils, where they said, Ram, we are already establishing small centers in rural area. We have about 25 centers, but we wanted to pilot about 5 with your platform. We're ready to go. And they have about 6 doctors sitting in a corporate area. So we've implemented that. Trust me, in April, May, we could service nothing less than 3,500 patients, just on that platform. So it's a big success. We didn't expect any revenues on it, but the platform which we've been building, there are a lot of challenges. We've got bugs on it. System didn't go through because it is all rural area. It's not well connected on the platform again. So we have to revisit on what we have to work on. How do we have to compress a couple of things? How do we have to work on a database? How does the flow have to go in? And certainly by end of May is when we've got settled on it. And that's become a big success story for us. And I really have to thank the project lead Vijay, who's sitting on this call also. And there are team members like Shiva, who's actually coordinated on it. So added to that, while we're doing it, the client have come up with a new concept saying that, Ram, we've been doing telemedicine. I wanted to set up a call center where any farmer should be able to call up on the call center. And I will connect that to this tool and start servicing, which we're piloting right now. That's a new innovation. See, the great thing which COVID has taught us is, working with a client and coming out with innovative ideas and having a great team, not looking at financials. Great team has really made a lot of difference. In terms of financing for establishing and all of that, client was very blunt on my face saying, Ram, whatever is the investment which is coming on the platform and your manpower right now, I'll bear 40%. I am fine with it. So immediately then the board of directors, we all got into the call. I said 60% should be fine. We should go ahead with that investment. We have not done any pay cut till date. Yeah, there is a deferred payout delayed happening, but we pay back before 20th is what we did. and I should thank all the team members who've done that. So,
Okay.
and another biggest opportunities which we have looked in is, technology has been a big issue because we work with all my staff come from rural background. They stay in rural background, and we ask them to go back home so that they are safe at home. People had issues in terms of connectivity and all of that. So what we said is, I said, you ask me anything which you want. You should be safe and the work should not stop. So what they've come up with a solution is, sir, we'll take all service provider data connectivity, be it BSNL, be it Jio, be it Airtel, Vodafone. I said, go take all four. We have all the employees have taken all four. We recharge all four connections. So there is no drop because your maximum limit today on a mobile is 3 GB, not more. Right? So typically we've got 12 GB running on it. So primarily, that's a solution which the team have come up, not me. That's this is it. So that is where, see, we went back and in the month of May and looked at what really worked for us and what we really did not work. What really worked for us in the month of March when we started talking to their family members saying that, hey, look, you're safe, your son is safe, you don't have to worry about it. We know how to take care of it, we'll take care of things. And along with it, for all the staff, once the lockdown phase has moved out, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, as an organization, we started sending small sanitary kits to the family members. Masks, talk about sanitizations, precautions there. We've sent some organic products packed together and sent it to their family members. What really excited to all of them is, okay, this company is taking care of us. Probably that cost us not more than about 300-400 rupees for us, but sending that as in the moment where they really require. It's really cracked us in terms of a long-term solution. And once this pilot, which is going on right now, what we've also done is in the month of May, the last 3 years of journey, we've interacted with a lot of freelancers, we've interacted with a lot of new idea guys and all of them. So all of us started calling all of them to know how they are, what they're doing, where are we heading to this. No, surprisingly, all of them, we went on to a call a couple of times, and they've come up with an idea saying that, sir, now that government is coming up with ambulance 24/7, this 108, 104 is coming right now. Medicare already has a platform. We all wanted to partner together and let's go back and do ambulance 24/7 with two-wheeler ambulance. We had that thought process for a while. Then once we got that solution, I was so surprised to see, these are all people who've been talking to each other for a while. But all freelancers coming back and saying that, sir, we really want to work together. It's not about money. See, the best part, what I loved about all of them is it's not about money. It's about somebody really likes exploring and doing on UI. Somebody likes doing on a Flutter platform. Somebody likes doing on a development platform. And somebody from a data security side have come up saying that, sir, I will support you on data security side. We'll not work on a revenue model right now. We don't need money, but we certainly want to build a platform which is class apart for healthcare services. So June first week is when we started working on the prototype. I think we already finished with the prototype right now. Another 3 to 4 months down the line, we're building a platform for ambulance services where we'll have a two-wheeler ambulance like the way that's there already in Telangana and Karnataka. But with little more on data analytics, little more high-end technology using hardware. This platform will help all rural area or urban area. One phone call, somebody met with an accident or somebody has an emergency. You just have to call. You can choose a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. Choice is this, and then we go back and connect that to the telemedicine centers which we have. It's a live incident where they will get first aid medication. If it's a two-wheeler ambulance, he gets connected on we'll be putting a helmet, have a GoPro on it, gets connected to the Wi-Fi, gets connected to the telemedicine care. And the basic medication will be taken care till the time the 108 comes in and they get shipped. It's the kind of technology which we're building. The challenges, Anudeep, yeah, we had a lot of challenges in terms of manpower, honestly. We take a lot of interns. We had about 9 interns who joined us. Out of them, a couple of them having challenges. Parental influence saying that, why are you putting my daughter on workload, it's COVID time, and all that. We have to lose about 3-4 of them. We have to buy in. We didn't have a choice for that. story has been very, very good. Opportunities are still there. We did not. The biggest asset which we got is client coming back and saying that Ram, I'm going to pay you 40% of my cost. Now that is what we felt. This is the true success what we have.
So, sure.
Along.
Thank you, Ram. Again, maybe I'll come back to you because
Yeah,
Saurabh has a hard stop, so we'll
yeah,
quickly get the direction with Saurabh. So, Saurabh, all of the speakers have shared how the employees stepped up and supporting the company, and with the scale that Paytm operates, how could you manage that in getting employees on board if they had to take part, in the steps that you take?
See, the first thing was that in Paytm, the general culture is that people are relatively autonomous. So there are like very less formal processes. So being a startup, we have tried to keep that ethos. So that really helped. The other thing was that people had a lot of options. Like we were using internally a tool for chatting, as well as we have a lot of informal WhatsApp groups of employees, as well as like I told, Google Meet, and some people even had access to Zoom, etc. And because most of the people besides I think very few junior employees, most of the people had laptops. So in general, also the company culture was very flexible in general. So people were obviously willing to work, and they had access to all the tools, etc. online. The second thing I think which was done was that our HR was relatively proactive. They started doing a lot of webinars, etc., for mental health and a lot of other best practices and related to precautions for corona, etc. And in the first few months, they were sending every week an email telling about the status of opening of the office. Although now they are not sending that much because now everybody has sort of assumed, and especially after seeing the situation in Delhi NCR in last 2 months. So now obviously everybody knows that it will most probably offices would not open in next 1 or 2 months. So they send the status email, but rarely. Earlier they were sending it practically every week or 10 days, and they had taken some precautions also. Very few staff had to be called to office, which were like very very important. But a lot of precautions also were taken. So in general, I would say that because of the way the company used to work, people were able to adapt to it. Obviously, in certain areas, the like in some teams, the work got impacted because, for example, in travel bookings and some of those areas, obviously the quantum of volume has reduced a lot. So we, in fact, some of the people were given some more responsibilities in different areas also. So for example, many of the executives in certain areas were free because of impact on their lines of business. So they were given choice to take some other work side by side. So they were given that, and I think that also helped. So, and we have been able to basically keep working in a good way. I've seen many of the older world businesses either going offline and calling people, which I think is not safe currently. Just before this event, my mother told me that my cousin, who is working in a very big company, she had two friends losing husbands, and my cousin is just 25 or 26 in age. So Corona is impacting people of any age. It's not impacting just people 60 plus, which is the general thinking of many industrial leaders that people should open everything, and maybe only the 60 plus should not be called. But I've seen a lot of cases of people dying even less, who have not even reached 40 years of age. So I think companies doing the right thing. I was in fact very malab, I had thinking that company would take proactive measures to save employees, but I was positively even more surprised that they are going to such a large extent. Like I was assuming that maybe after 2 3 months we may have 1 or 2 days of office a week, but I am happy that companies taking such precautions that they have not opened the offices, especially in impacted areas, and that also gives trust to employees. See, because at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of people who were being called in June, etc., in various companies and organizations. In social media, I saw a post where somebody said that I have to go from Delhi to Noida. Is it open or not? So those kind of people were panicking due to the organizational policies. But fortunately for us, we didn't have to do that, and that also saves in general also. See, because once you start living in a house, you have now a pattern. So every day you have a pattern that in the morning you may be having calls and all those things. So a person, because of that pattern, gets used to it. If you are going to office 2 days and not going to office 3 days, it creates a lot of chaos, because of one thing is that I'm in lots of WhatsApp groups of corporate leaders in Delhi NCR. So I see some of the people are sharing that one person came infected and then they had to close down the office and they were again opening the office. So those kind of things really impact the morale. In our
True.
case, it's now more of the you can work from home, and that is like sort of for 2 3 months you have to plan it in that way. So that really helps in productivity.
Okay. So, Saurabh, I had the privilege of coming to Paytm office in 2015 or so. I was then meeting the CFO there, and he was doubling up as a CHRO too. So I was, surprised, like how could, I mean, relation between the finance and HR. So one thing he told me is that Paytm has this, I don't say policy, but you hire more entrepreneurs, ex-entrepreneurs as your employees.
Yes, that
So
that is
that made his job easy. So how do you think this has helped in building that resilience, across the ladder?
the general thought process nowadays in bigger startups is that it is better to basically hire ex entrepreneurs, because they are generally more flexible. I have seen that also in the company. So in the company, I have seen a lot of senior people are like me, are from ex entrepreneurship background. So it really helps because generally, like as a startup, now we are having processes, but maybe 2 3 years ago when I had joined, the processes were very less, and some of the senior people had joined last year from some corporates to bringing the processes like a corporate. But in general, even still, we try to reduce the number of processes, so we don't have any fixed meetings. So it's an open plan office. You can go and meet anybody anytime. You don't have to have a calendar invite. You don't have to book rooms. So those kind of informal things are there still at such a like large uh, in such a large office. So that really helps. Obviously, some people have some issues. They are used to getting calendar invites and all those things. But if you are from an entrepreneurship background, you are used to this, that anybody can talk to you at any time. You can talk to anybody at any time. So entrepreneurs find Paytm a better place. The other thing is that most of the entrepreneurs who join are generally people who have been running their own startups and they have a lot of ambition, but sometimes even due to various factors like lack of funding or something, the venture had got closed or something. So these people are having a lot of drive, but they didn't have those resources. So like we hear that Indians, when they go to US, they get a lot of success. So same things happen in Paytm, that because you have drive, you have intelligence, but unfortunately, due to something or the other, your own startup was not able to do some big thing. So when these people join Paytm, they are able to lead in a better way. So in general, I would say that the experience has been good. The only thing is that we have a lot of people who have been there for last 10 years, 15 years. Generally, entrepreneurs I have seen stay there for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then they again sometimes get the entrepreneurial bug. So we have a senior vice president in Paytm. He proudly writes on Twitter, "Third time in Paytm." So I have seen people. So for in last 12 years, he has left Paytm 2 times, become an entrepreneur, and come back again. So even that is there for some people. So they go and come. So in our case, people generally say कि ये आज गया है, maybe next year he will come again. So this has happened with 2 3 people. मतलब it's not just one person. And this is at senior level. I'm saying. In junior level, maybe it will be happening even more.
But how do you rate, this policy of yours helping in building that resilience and handling the crisis better?
See, obviously, entrepreneurs are relatively better in terms of taking care of things in crisis, and they want less infrastructure and less of processes. So generally, what I've seen when I have worked in I have worked as consultant in corporates in earlier time, and I know a lot of friends etc. who work in corporate. So they require a lot of infrastructure. They require a lot of processes. In Paytm, what happens is that we are now having a culture where if you have processes, it is okay. But if you don't have processes, we don't stop due to that. I think that's due to the entrepreneurship background. Because what happens is that a person once he becomes entrepreneur, he or she they become flexible because if you have done job all your life, then what happens is that you start expecting a lot of things for an interesting thing is when you join from an entrepreneurship background, you are able to see some issues in the organization, which generally Vijay is very open to taking feedback. So when I joined, I gave him some feedbacks because for me it was a new environment working with thousands of people. I was always an entrepreneur, having a relatively smaller organization but a nimble organization. So I used to give him some feedback, and he used to take it very positively. So I think bringing entrepreneurs give this also, because if you just take people from big corporates, they will just make you like a corporate, slow and that kind of thing. So entrepreneurs give you some advice in that sense also, see how to become more agile and what can be the best practices to be faster. And Vijay always prefers speed over size and all those other things. So I think their entrepreneurs help.
So you come from a commerce background and then chose to build mobile games way back in 2002. Maybe I remember playing the Snake game on Nokia 3310 during that time. So like, how did you think that it's going to be so big and want to venture into that space? And any other example of crisis in your personal life which you, I mean, might have turned into an opportunity, or where you had taken a big decision?
My life was once I was telling the story of my life to an income tax officer. He said, "Badi filmy story hai." So the thing was that unfortunately so what happened was that I was playing Super Mario and all in class 7, and one day my mother challenged कि Mario खेलने से कुछ नहीं होता है, and I said that no, I will make a game like Mario. So I learned C language to build Mario. I learned AI in class 11, a little bit of AI, whatever I could understand. In that time, internet was not there. Internet came, I think, after I passed school. In general, the availability was only after that. So what happened was that I wanted to build this game. I learned programming due to that, and unfortunately, my father died in a car accident in 10th. So because he died in 10th, the problem was that I had to choose science or commerce in 11th. And my mother said at that time there were no private colleges. So my mother said if you take science and if you don't get admission in IIT Delhi or Delhi College of Engineering, which were the only two good colleges in Delhi. So she said you would have to go to some other part of India, mostly in South India, because in South India even those times we had private colleges. So she said, I don't want to send you to South India for doing this because if you do CA, my father had a CA office. He was a CA. So she said, if you do CA, you will remain in your office because at the end of the day, even the articleship would be in our office. So she wanted me to do commerce initially. Then in 12th, she said, "Okay, ठीक है, if you want, you can do science, but unfortunately, the school system didn't allow that because they said that once you take commerce, you have to take with commerce only. So I could not switch. They didn't even allow me to take computer science. So I did all things self study, but that really helped me now. So from 2015 onwards, I started reading a lot of books, and I practically read 40 or 50 books every year. I have just completed to the 103rd book yesterday. So
Wow.
I've learned design, I've learned agile and all those new things in startup. And what I'm realizing is that the disadvantage which I had in the first decade of my working career, due to not going to the engineering college, is now an advantage, because I see a lot of people who are engineers or some other degree, they don't do self study that much, or even if they do self study, they do only self study related to their, like I see a lot of CAs or even engineers doing self study related to their own topic. So you will find engineers learning new languages, but you won't find engineers learning design. So but now I am practically very fluid in nature, because I was doing commerce and reading artificial intelligence. So now it is easy for me to be in technology and still read about design, read about all those things which are of commercial nature or maybe art in nature. So I say, yeah, art, science, and commerce are just basically these are there just for college logistics. So obviously, one teacher cannot teach all three, but as a human, you can learn all three. So that's what has been my learning over the years, and I always like I am seeing that many of the youngsters are always there in my webinars, etc., and they say that, sir, we learn from you a lot. And I think the main thing is that I always say that be positive about your life, because when Corona also started in April, I put a LinkedIn post that like when my father died, I didn't know that one day I would be talking to thousands of people. I would be successful. So even Corona would go and we would not remember it, and so that positiveness in my life is there due to that background. Otherwise, I would have also got more anxious. But now I know that like if I can quote in Hindi, हर शाम के बाद एक सवेरा होता है. So I know that. So I feel that that in the incident in my life really helped me.
Okay. I mean,
One
great. I
thing,
mean,
one
not
last thing which I would like to add, because this is a event by Vizag Industrial Scan. So the founder of the newspaper was my father's friend, and I remember uncle sending us newspaper for last 20 years. So he was giving us free subscription to the newspaper for last 20 years, and I remember, like, while doing CA, I used to read this newspaper a lot and learn about Vizag. So Vizag is the only city in South India which I feel like my own city. Like all the other cities, I feel that they are obviously very distant in terms of like the uh, distance, but Vizag feels a little closer home to me.
so. Vizag is definitely privileged to have that connect with you, and we definitely want to, learn more from you. And I mean, 103 books is a huge thing with the reducing attention spans these days. And then maybe the entrepreneur in you is helping you explore more areas. So, before you leave, do you have any advices for the startups, who are still at the angel funding or yet to raise funding stage? How do you survive or how do you identify the opportunities?
See, I would say that one interesting thing which I would like to share, which I generally share in my webinars, is that when I was reading all these books, so I read a book on theory of multiple intelligence. So how I used to find books was that one day in a seminar, somebody told that there is a theory called theory of multiple intelligence. I searched on internet and I thought I should get the book about it. I read that book, and interestingly, after 6 months when I joined Paytm, I realized that most engineers I have seen are very focused on IQ, and they have a big ego. Especially all the educated people in India have a big ego that they have good IQ relative to the others. But what I realized was that when I saw Vijay, he has all those eight intelligences mentioned in theory of multiple intelligence. So instead of just focusing on IQ, try to have all the eight intelligences, and especially five intelligences, which are very critical to being an entrepreneur. So the five intelligences are logical intelligence, which is similar to IQ, linguistic intelligence, interpersonal intelligence. This is, I think, the defining characteristic of Vijay. He has very good interpersonal intelligence, which I have seen a lot of professionals. I have seen a lot of lawyers, a lot of CAs, even a lot of engineers not having good interpersonal intelligence. So they have a big ego. They are not very humble, and they are not able to connect with people. So, but as an entrepreneur, you have to have very good interpersonal intelligence. Then intrapersonal intelligence don't work for money. I've seen Vijay doesn't work for money. He has a big aim. India should be as good as America. He has that kind of a background aim in his life. And the final thing is naturalistic intelligence, ability to see future. Not like obviously you cannot see future like an astrologer, but ability to see patterns. So 10 years ago when Vijay said that we will start Paytm, board was saying that this is a bad idea. So even board was not convinced. So I think in the current scenario this will happen. So I also remember in 2004 I think I remember. So I was a CA and I was building mobile games, and one day one of our family friends who was a big lawyer, he said, "ये I would quote exact the words in Hindi." He said, "ये पापा की प्रैक्टिस क्यों बंद कर रहे हो मोबाइल गेम्स बना के? स्नेक मैं भी खेलता हूँ पर स्नेक बनाने से कैसे पैसे कमाओगे?" So 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 he said that, and it was obviously a little negative when you hear such things. But over the years, what I've realized is that if I had obviously stopped that day, I would not have been here. Maybe I had been doing a CA practice, so maybe I would have become a senior CA. But I got to learn a lot of things. I got to see a lot of things due to being in the mobile app space. And in first 3 years, nobody wanted to get a mobile app built from me. So I realized that had I gone into enterprise software, I would have earned a lot of money during those days. But unfortunately, I went to mobile apps, and nobody wanted to get the mobile apps made. But from 2000 to 2010, that was an issue. But after 2010, now I think it was good that I didn't go into enterprise space, and I became a leader in mobile app space. That really helped my career and my startup also after 2010. So what I am saying is that as a startup entrepreneur, you may be at the right place at the right time, but you may feel that you are at the wrong place at the wrong time. So for first 5 years in my career, I always used to feel I am at the right place at the right time, but everybody around me used to feel that I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. But then things change, and now everybody feels that I was at the right place at the right time. So don't lose heart. These times would always go, and one day you will get successful. That one day may come after 10 years, but that will surely come if you don't lose your heart.
Thank you, Saurabh, and maybe we should again connect in regarding working with education institutions and in your Build for India program through TIE we can collaborate and reach out to more students in giving them experience of being entrepreneurial experience in the student life. So, thank you once again for joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us. So now we'll go to Srinath. You know, uh, so Srinath, I mean, in the startup world, we keep hearing about Flipkart mafia more, but I see this silent drive of ITC employees being majorly founding companies. So, what has ITC done to you, or what policy of theirs is really churning out so many entrepreneurs out of their employees?
Great question, Anudeep. I think responsibility comes very early in ITC, right? So I was a graduate, mechanical engineering graduate in 2010, and when I came to ITC, joined Guntur, and they posted me in Rajmundry and asked me to take care of about 10,000 acres of farming land, right? So in terms of managing farmers, and so I think they put you out in the open and ask you to solve things. And I mean, when you're thrown in the ocean, obviously you'll learn swimming, right? So that's what really happened at ITC. And I mean, the passionate guys obviously learn to swim, and in the process of learning to swim, pick up a lot of skills, pick up a lot of toolkits, right? In terms of people management, in terms of convincing stakeholders, in terms of picking up danda, right? So all of these really got picked up, and hence in the process, what you become is you become fearless, right? You become fearless. You are able to think big. You are able to be confident that you can solve this big problem. I think those are the things that generally happens in ITC, and hence you'll see a lot of people from big companies, big startups that exist today, whether it's Flipkart or Oyo or Blackbuck or Rivigo or many other such bigger of the startup. They are continuing to remain startups because it's more a spirit rather than a number thing, right? So I think that's one important reason. I think. Nadi.
So, can you share, because Off Business started as a different company and then, you pivoted, Off Business pivoted to be an NBFC. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you were with, I mean, though you are with Off Business, but you weren't full time with Off Business when they pivoted. But
Yeah.
still, there might have been, what actually led to such a decision, because pivoting is a big decision for a startup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's I think my message for the group also. I think we should be really married to the goal, but not really to the path. Quite often, I find entrepreneurs really married to the path also. I find that is a dangerous thing sometimes, right? So it can sometimes mask completely your goal also, and hence, I mean, the vision was simple at Off Business, right? How do we unleash the capacity of SMEs to do more? And so that was a very simple vision, right? And hence obviously commerce was one tool, one way we wanted to impact, and obviously commerce continues to be there at Our Business, I think. And when the pivot happened to NBFC, obviously the goal did not really change. The only the path changed, and I think that's one important. And similar pivots happened in other organizations as well, right? So in Blackbuck also, it's a large freight company. I think they built services. They built non-freight services for the trucking ecosystem in the years of 2017 and 18, primarily with the intent of, I mean, to impact truckers' lives, to impact truck drivers and truck owners' lives, right? So the vision did not really change, but the moment you are agile in terms of experimenting and also coming out and saying that, okay, this is not going to work. Let me not be unnecessarily married to this path. It's going to take a really long time, or there is a smarter way to achieve the same objective. Then I think it's important to not be married, to be really objective, and constantly critique the path that you're taking. And similarly, I mean, Zetwork, when we started in 2018, we started with software services, right? We did not want it to be in the space where we are today, but we were clear. We wanted to make a dent in the manufacturing universe. We wanted to we wanted to make the supply chain more reliable, right? But initially, our thought process was let's go through the software angle. But in 6 months, we realized that software is just 5% of the overall problem. There are a lot more things that are broken out there, and hence we ventured into building a marketplace. Then we ventured into building front end services for the EPC players. All of this happened primarily because you're married to the goal, but really not you're really not married to the path, and you should be open to undoing things that you have done in the past.
Sure. I mean, we are over time, but I'm not letting you leave yet. I am taking the liberty to take more time of yours. So I want you to address the problems of other members here and the Q&A. So we'll quickly wrap it up. Meanwhile, I had to stop Ram in between because I had to move to Saurabh. So I'll continue the discussion from there. So Ram, yes, you've been talking about the challenges that you are still facing. So,
Yeah, underneath, to add on, challenges has always been there. We still face a lot of challenges, especially in terms of we have, manpower crunch, talent crunch, not seriousness, and not people are still not serious about, getting our job done and all of that stuff. Revenues, like every startup has a challenge. Everybody first think about, okay, what will happen for the next 3 months down the line? We're not getting business. We have idea, but we don't have funding in our hand. How do we take it up to the next level? The only outcome which I have seen a lot of startups struggling on is don't invest too much on infrastructure. Okay. And today, COVID is a true example. The only success which Medic has is we didn't invest anything on infrastructure. It is all on technology. It is on learning. Get right talent into the picture, and do not have a perception saying that my team member have to sit in front of me and start working. So that those days of monopoly has gone. Today is all about trust, relationship, talent, and how give your timelines right. Give me a value proposition, and how do you work together on a revenue share model? No, that's the model which is moving on, right? My message to everybody, because I'm also looking at a retail chain on Native Araku Coffee. That's a very different vertical to look at. I don't know how many of them are coming from a retail background in this session right now. But retail has a very, very big opportunity. Somebody who's working on a retail chain, like the way Srinath was talking about manufacturing field, in terms of picking up things and healthcare devices to be worked upon. In a similar way, in this COVID scenario, I've got calls from Reliance, Heritage, and all of them to go back and tell us saying that Ram, you're working with Araku Valley. Can we get some spices? Can we get some nice organic food to go back and look at? The opportunities keep lying. Now, how do we build that to the next level is more important. Everybody is going through one trauma. My suggestion to everybody in this group is crisis is there, funding opportunities are there. Identify what is the opportunity, how much of a cost. It could be 1 rupee, it could be 2 rupees. Save on the cost and have a pipeline of next 2 months down the line. Pay 50% salary or 40% family. Retain the best team that you have. Make them as a part of your revenue model, and I think things will work on. So that's what I wanted to actually pass on a message.
Sure. So now we'll go to Rajneesh. Rajneesh, I mean, in the space that you are in, you already have big wigs like Philips and Wipro, who've been, even they had to, after Philip Hue, they now got in Philip Wiz, where you use Wi-Fi more than Zigbee, so you don't even have to change the existing or introduce a new thing. So how do you see that you can handle this business and then compete with these people and the R&D that you need to do, so because this is still evolving and you need to be at pace with it. So how are you going to handle this?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you look at bigger companies, the cost of making a product is always high. See, if you take Philips as an example, if they have to invest in R&D and build a product, the cost that they had to spend versus the cost to startup incurs is drastically different. So that's one aspect. So bigger companies always look towards startups or companies where they already have a solution. So while you're talking about Philips, but if you actually look at Philips, there are a number of companies who are the OEMs for Philips who are offering the technology to Philips. It's not just.
In fact, the Philip Wiz that they recently started is an acquisition that they made.
Yeah.
Because they now, instead of Zigbee, they are now moving to the using Wi-Fi directly. You have a bulb which can be directly connected to Wi-Fi.
Correct.
The existing infrastructure, I can buy a bulb and just plug it in.
True.
That's a decent progress. Previously people used to think about how do I change the complete wiring of a house, and then from there we move to just introducing a single switch or device inside the switchboard and then making it smart. Now you are just making the bulbs or anything that you are going to plug and play directly. So this is huge progress. So you need to stay at pace with this. So how are you going to handle that?
Yeah.
Pace.
So as of now, we've ensured that whatever technology we have patented it. Like if you talk about Wi-Fi also, we have the patented the technology which enables Wi-Fi to work even without internet. So that is one of the patents that we have. And two is Enway. Enway is our second patent, wherein it will allow you to control appliance from any number of switches, virtually any number of switches. So we have identifying see, the first thing that I think is important in a product is practicality and relevance. If you offer 100 features which people cannot use, rather than that, offer those 2 or 3 features which are very relevant, which actually makes a difference to your end user and improves the customer satisfaction, right? So these are the things we have categorized. We have added as a part of our roadmap. You're talking about Wi-Fi. We have already moved to LoRaWAN. We're investing R&D on the 5G. So we're looking at it futuristically. That is one, to ensure that we are not falling back. And two, whatever products we are building, we're talking to a lot of OEMs who have a typical device, for example, lighting. So for Orient and other guys, there is a company who provides the lights. Okay, so we are in touch with them to make these lights smart, so that they can directly give it to the end users. So we are not there in the picture, but then the technology is actually going to the end customer. So that's how, rather than competing, going in a phase where, as a small company, instead of competing with a bigger company, we are complementing what they're doing and ensuring that we are also growing along with that. Because for us to go to a sizable entity, we need to do that. We need to complement more than compete. So that's how we are doing it, and that's how we're reinvesting in technology.
So I think we can draw to a close. So before we close, maybe if you can quickly summarize on your final advice to the startups or the attendees, then maybe we'll open it for Q&A.
Yeah. So there was a question in the live chat. So what are the how do we take how startups without any funding, how what are the things that they need to take care of? So in my view, when you don't have funding, it's a survival day by day. So for you to ensure that you're continuing, you need to protect your critical resources, right? Like Srinath was mentioning, be married to your goal, not to the path that you chose. Be agile to change the path. So probably if you have 10 people in your team, see if you can outsource 4 of them, identify those top critical resources, and put them into billable projects, even if it is your non-core work, like building a website or whatever. That way, you're ensuring that they're safe. Two, take 20 or 30% of the time from their billable time, and then reinvest the time into your goal, whatever you have defined. That way, you can protect your resources and you can also ensure your business continuity. Two, don't underestimate any of the startup challenges, be it on F65 or be it on Startup India or any of the public PSUs. They list down a lot of these challenges. Start applying for these challenges. Yeah, you never know. You might hit a jackpot. And three, as a company, prior to the COVID scenario, you would have seen a lot of opportunities, right? A lot of areas where there is a possibility of generating revenue. But now a lot of these avenues might be closed now. You might have some of them open. So put the key strength only in that space where there is an opportunity. For example, if you take industry, the entire industry as an example, there's no money in garment sector, there's no money in hospitality. But then pharma is a space where there is a lot of money. So probably if you have a relevant product, diversify and put focused effort there, because that's where you can generate income and add value and survive. Right. So these are the inputs. Yeah.
Sure. Srinath, quick summary and.
Anudeep, adding on to what I just said, in the earlier part of my conversation, while goal is extremely important, the path and being agile on the path that we take is very important. Second is, of course, there are two ways of problem solving, right? So one is visualizing an end state and then solving backwards from there, right? And second is, of course, reality also doesn't change that where you are today. And I think it's important to constantly break down your end state and build those tactical goals for a quarter or for a half a year or for a year, and constantly keep reviewing where you are. Are you traveling in the right trajectory? And that is what tells you whether you need to change the path or not, right? So yes, big grand vision is important, but at the same time, having really tactical goals. For example, the first year of us when we were also unfunded was very simple. So the first 3 months, we were three of us, and we basically broke down the whole problem as saying, let us meet at least 200 customers and 200 suppliers, right, across the country. So we just extensively traveled, right, in that time. That was the first 3 months, right? The next 3 months is okay. Let us build. I mean, I think it's also very important to constantly be in sync with the market. We can't work in a lab and suddenly come out of the lab and say, okay, let me take this product to the market. I think the building a product is a very a two-way process. It's not a one-way process, and hence always start small. Always start with that simple small functionality which is going to touch large number of lives. So the impact may be really small, but it's a very significant step forward for you, right? And so it's important to break down your grand plan into smaller executable plans and chase that very relentlessly.
So Ram,
Yeah,
word.
so added to both of the speakers. No, the same point, have a very clear vision, make a plan on how are you going to execute your goal and a vision. Don't lose hope. That's very important. You will get challenges in and around. See, funding is a very small entity in achieving goal. Okay, look at every cost. Only if it is required, invest on it. But ensure that you retain your team, like the way Rajnish spoke about it. Don't lose your core team. That's the asset for you to become successful, right? So these are the only three things which I feel. Don't get demotivated. But one last thing for every startup, in your vertical, if you see an opportunity, in terms of, imagine in a healthcare, if I see an opportunity to manufacture a BP machine, don't lose the opportunity. Explore, partner with people, go together. You cannot win the race all alone. You have to partner with people. Partner with people, start working with the technology, and be successful together. That's the key success.
So I think we'll have a quick Q&A. I mean, we just 2 minutes to 12:30. So the questions that we already have in the chat, maybe Srinath, you would be able to answer, and Rajnish has already responded to it. So
Yeah,
what is
adding on to
the
what
impact of China? Yeah.
yeah, adding on to what Rajneesh mentioned, I have very similar views to Rajneesh. I think yes, a lot of raw materials. Whilst we are talking about make in India, in a lot of sectors, primarily very little value is added inside the country, right? In terms of probably assembly or finish machining or things like that are only largely getting added. We've got great technologies in our country. We've got great product packagers in our country, but the missing middle is infrastructure ecosystem, which is what China has today, right? If you look at any of those Shenzhen or any of those cities, you have I mean, why can't Vizag become like Shenzhen, right? So why can't I have a steel rolling mill, next to that there is a foundry, and then there is a machine builder, and then there is a casting unit, and there is a die casting unit, so you'll find those integrated centers of ecosystem that exists in China. I think we are directionally in that path right now, in terms of lot of leaps of faith are being made by entrepreneurs in the recent past, in terms of solving for the structural inefficiencies that exist in our country. But yeah, I mean, tactically, I think if we have to be less dependent on China, there are still alternative sourcing geographies. Like Rajneesh mentioned, Vietnam, Taiwan are great geographies. There's also Eastern Europe, which has certain access to technologies which we still do not have in India. But at the same time, I think in a 10-year framework, a lot of these infrastructure gaps we see today, I strongly believe will get solved for. There are massive capacities that are being built in terms of port connectivity, in terms of third-party logistics, in terms of setting up large-scale integrated warehousing structures, in terms of not just primary manufacturing activity, secondary manufacturing activity clusters. all of these are happening in tier 2 towns in the country, right? So in city like Bellary in Karnataka is now going to be home to India's largest toy making SEZ, right? So things like that are definitely positive steps in that direction towards bridging the gaps that we see today. And I strongly believe in a 10-year kind of a timeline, most of this should get solved, and I'm an eternal optimist in that direction.
So the one other question in the chat is a service-based cybersecurity startup into manual penetration testing and web or mobile applications API testing. Any suggestions for them? I guess we don't have too many IT people here, but with the experience Rajneesh and Ram has, if you want to share anything on it. But with my experience of looking at the current scenario and looking at opportunities, I guess with lot of companies going remote, definitely there is a lot of opportunities for the companies to grab, because now they need to focus on cyber security and data security more, since all of their employees would be working remotely and from very different places, and you never know what internet facility or ISP that they use, or public they might be using in the public internet. So we'll have to build new security applications to ensure the data privacy. So it's definitely an opportunity for you. Just stay on top of it and evolve with the situation, and then see how this can really help. Reach out to the companies in terms of the value add that you can give. And Ram and Rajnish, if you want to add to it.
Yeah.
So, Azhar, just to add to your requirement, healthcare is streaming up very, very high, and as a protocol in all the organizations, data security becomes a key role. While they play with a lot of data, trust me, I'm telling you, a place like a pharma city you're sitting on in Vizag, are looking for security. I can connect you to a couple of them. I know the Rampi CEO. I'll probably connect you with them. Make a small package, show them what's the pack all about, how is it going to secure, what IP is going to secure, how is research going to help them in looking at the data, and that will help you. You'll have to create a small package where people can implement and see what are you all about. Only then they'll come back to you, because there are players from Bangalore and Chennai. I have about 6-7 cybersecurity guys who are already trying to get into the market. And I think Azhar is coming from Vizag. I think you can grab the market better than somebody else. I can connect you on that. You can ping me offline, Azhar, and I'll put you on my LinkedIn here. You can connect me, and I'll connect you.
Great. Maybe if you want, you can leave your contact coordinates in the chat, and they would make a note. Or the attendees can always reach out to Tai if you want to reach out to any of the speakers, and we'll be happy to connect. Reach out to us why you would like to connect with the speakers, and we'll be happy to make the connect. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and special thanks to Viscan and AP Innovation Society for making this possible. I mean, Saurabh has already spoken about Viscan and Viscan founder, but for those, I'll just give a brief intro about Viscan. It's called Vizag Industrial Scan. It's a niche industrial cum business fortnightly, and has been instrumental in showcasing business news for the last 22 years. Even Saurabh was mentioning that he has been reading it for the last 20 years. And, they, apart from the traditional industries, they're now focusing on startups and featuring startups in their edition. So we'll be hoping to work with Viscan more and getting more such initiatives possible. And, while we are moving to the new normal, there are many events of TIE that we usually do during this period. Now most of these have gone into the online mode, virtual mode. So I would just like to bring to you two such events that are coming up in the next 2-3 days. So the one thing is we started a webinar series on impact investment. The first session would be by Mr. Gururaj Deshpande. Most of you must have heard of Deshpande Foundation Sandbox set up in Hubli. So he would be addressing on the opportunities, or identifying the opportunities in social entrepreneurship space, and the importance of impact investment and philanthropy. And we would have a series of webinars on areas related to impact investment, majorly with the themes of affordable healthcare, holistic education, sustainable agriculture, and climate and ecology. So, I would post the link for the event in the chat. Feel free to attend the event. It's a great event, and you know, definitely Gururaj Deshpande is a great person to listen to. So at least for him, you should go to the event on 20th. So register and you would get the link. And then coming to the TriCon Silicon Valley that is done every year during the first week of May. It has been postponed and is being organized on September 2nd and 3rd of this. And we understand that there is a fatigue on webinars, so they've broken it up into three different events: two Road to TriCons and TriCon Silicon Valley in September. So the first one is done on June 24th, where we had Vinod Khosla, and now on 22nd we will have Amitabh Kant and Shelly. And for the September 2nd event, we'll be having Indra Nui and many great speakers. So that would be a bigger event for 2 days. So if anyone is interested in the event, do reach out to me, and I'll help you in getting registered for the event. So thank you so much, Srinath, Ram, and Rajneesh, and Saurabh for joining us and sharing your insights and experience. We had a great chat, and that's the reason I took the liberty to take extra time, because I did not want the flow to end, because we've been getting a lot of insights and covering various sectors. Maybe next time we'll plan some sessions individually with each of you, so that we'll cover more time. More areas. Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Pleasure,
you.
pleasure to be on this
Thank
panel.
you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.